We believe that design here shouldn't shout, that you shouldn't come to this place and see it as a design. You should see this as a platform where everything else around it is amplified and concentrated and made even more dramatic and more theatrical and more palpable than it is today. It's a very poetic site, it's a guardian, it's a gateway, and it's a center point. And it's also a significant viewpoint, but it's also an important connection point. And we show in this little map the importance of this location connecting east and west paths across the Presidio grounds and the Crissy Field and Crissy Marsh and Bayfront lands, and the importance of the north-south connection, connecting Presidio Hills, Inspiration Point, down along Anza Esplanade and drawing Anza Esplanade down to Crissy Field Marsh and the Bay. It's also, as a center point, an important nexus or hub or core to connect and integrate and make all of this special. So because of a viewpoint and a center point, we call this Presidio Point. We're playing a little bit on the romance of points in San Francisco. You have Fort Point and Vista Point, and now you'll have Presidio Point. This is the site plan. I'll walk you through it less in terms of places and more in terms of 6 organizing principles. The first is to open the views, to preserve the views. When you stand in this location over the tunnels, we imagine you'll be able to turn 360 degrees, see the skyline, the Palace of the Arts, Alcatraz, Angel Island, the bridge, the hills and forests and woodlands at the back, and the parade ground and the main post, all in one panoramic view. We think this is extraordinary and unheralded, and something that any design has to really play on and leverage. Towards that end, you'll see the 2 green lines on the plan. We extend the parade ground all the way out, absolutely unobstructed views. But importantly, the Esplanade connects the hills to the parade ground and the main post, brings you through Presidio Point, down to Crissy Marsh, and down to the Bay. This aerial view shows the general expression of the Presidio parade ground being simply drawn out over the space of the tunnels. The lawn of the parade ground becomes the lawn of now what we call the West Lawn. These promontories form a series of important overlooks and vista locations. The 2 promontories look out, but from Crissy Field, you look up, you see the promontories as invitations to come up. Here you see the main parade ground and the idea of just extending that carpeted lawn all the way out to the edge of the bluff, a completely open horizon. It will look a little bit like an infinity pool. When you come out onto what we call the West Lawn, which is just a very gently crowned landscape, simple open horizon lines to the sky, to the weather, to the view. This is the West Overlook. It's on the westernmost promontory of the site plan, designed as a cantilevered walk. Step out into the space of the bay, focus your views to the bridge and to the gateway, and have all of that atmosphere and air and weather moving around you, and experience something about the real raw nature of this place on this balcony overlook. The central overlook we call the looking glass. This is an idea to create a sort of a glass, a polished stainless steel mirror. It actually builds on a 17th century landscape architectural tradition of using beveled mirrors to look at a landscape and to paint it. So we like the idea of this as sort of being a feature, a destination element. When you sit on that bench and look inwards at the main post and the parade ground, and look at the looking glass, you will see the 360-degree view in one scope of view. The east overlook is focused on access to Alcatraz. Notice how these get-down steps allow you to sit at a slightly lower elevation, helping you to get out of the wind and out of the weather. But it also allows us to sink the railing so that from the lawn and from the elevated areas, you do not see the railing. In the middle is an area we call the observation post. It's a replacement for this building. It allows this building to be removed and to actually open up the view from the parade ground. This building is imagined as 2 sloping lawns that meet the ground. People can walk onto the lawns and go to the top. They get an elevated view all around. Underneath are 2 usable spaces for the Presidio. about 9,000 square feet each. One might become a cafe and restaurant and allow for dining, another might become an event space and a function space. And when you come inside them, this wraparound glass facade allows for the full panorama to be framed between the roof and the floor. That glass wall can also slide open and close. You can begin to have a lot more interaction between the inside of the building and the outside of the building. The second important principle is connect and extend. Essentially, there are two components to that. One is Anza Esplanade, the other is what we call the cliff walk. When Anza Esplanade comes in between the visitor center and the transit center, we propose a new location around the Monterey cypress trees that are there today, and we call this the Zocalo. Zocalo is Spanish for piazza or central place. It's all about community, gathering, orientation. You see the bear there is actually drawn from a Native American interpretation of some wildlife in this area. The cliff walk connects down to Crissy Field, and it also connects the Presidio Promenade, and it draws people along the outer edge of the walk. This is where we want to have a lot of furniture, a lot of places where people are invited to sit, to take in the view. We have this idea of really sculpting furniture with backs that allow for wind protection and allow people to sit either looking into the Presidio or looking out to the view. And then the bluff walk is the ramp that takes you down the face of the bluff. It's user-friendly, it's wheelchair accessible, it moves gently and smoothly into the Crissy Field Marsh and across to Crissy Field itself. The third principle is showcase history. We're very reverent and respectful for the significance of the Presidio as a historical location, ranging from Native American peoples to the Spanish to people today. We have an idea that Anza Esplanade will be the key route for people to take people on history tours. And as you walk along Anza Esplanade, you can begin to learn more about the place. We'd also like to have a huge flag in this location, a bigger than big American flag in recognition of the significance of the Presidio and its dedication to service. The fourth principle is enhance ecology. Ecology works at various scales. We really applaud the reforestation program here, and we'd like to see that reforestation actually flank the sides of the Presidio coming down the Tennessee Hollow Restoration Project, and also on the other side, in an effort to make the Presidio a bigger void than it is today. So that the void effect of the lawns and all of those buildings are embraced by this large forest on both flanks. Here you see the restoration of the coastal bluff, and below the learning gardens, which we want to invoke the restoration of dunes that we see in Crissy Marsh. On the top, on the upland, is the East Meadow. This we want to be a sort of horticultural spectacle. Tall grasses blowing in the breeze, but as you walk through them, there are various horticultural moments to learn about native fauna, in particular grasses, and their use in the recreation of meadows. The bluff walk, too, is seen as an ecological story with a series of plantings and wayfinding moments. And when you get to the bottom now, we're in the learning gardens, they call these the dune gardens, where youth, children, and families will come to learn about the environment, to learn about nature, which brings us to our fifth theme, invite play and learning. In this lower landscape, we designed a series of hills and hollows and places of discovery. We have a series of outdoor classrooms in the Youth Interactive Zone, which is just by the Youth Center, where you can come and learn about composting, beekeeping, replanting of marshlands, and the cycles of the natural landscape. We also have an architectural plan to show the expansion of that center in a very sensitive way. We've created this idea, just like the bear, we have the snowy plovers that tells the story of the importance of these birds in this landscape and allows them to enter the imaginations of children and all who visit here. The possibilities down here too for what we call art in process, where artists can come and do something and be seen doing it. Interactivity, engagement, fun, communication about something about the importance of this as a wildlife corridor and as a historical destination. Finally, the sixth point, activate events and culture. You can see in this diagram with these colored islands, the idea of creating places that allow you and the community to program this place in a really vivid and exciting way. In the Zocalo, for example, it is a place of gathering, orientation, community. It's also a place that could lend itself to food markets, to festivals, to the possibility of nighttime art or nighttime lighting on a temporary basis. On the West Lawn, we see it essentially about being for people, for frisbee, for kite flying, for deck chairs, but also the possibility of putting up small cabanas and having evening picnics and evening get-togethers, totem carving or log carving. We love the idea of camping and campfires, stargazing, possibility of a lantern festival or other types of community event where different peoples and different organizations can come and theatricalize what it means to be cultural and social in a natural place so close to a city. The amphitheater is just a beautiful place to sit out at the wind, but it also lends itself to performance. It could be a really spectacular setting. Looking back up now, you see the observation post, the two lawns of the observation post, and the Monterey cypress trees now as an iconic sort of landmark. The design that we've put into this shows the effort that we've put into trying to sculpt this place to make dramatic places on the one hand, and to make it seem like it's just a natural part of the bluff escarpment landscape on the other hand, in the context of the city. So it doesn't become about the design of this thing itself as much as it becomes about everything else around, adding up to something more than the sum of its parts.